I'm glad that we're all together again. I'm hoping that you're doing some of the tips I've given you, like writing down a couple of quick notes about how you're feeling and what caused you to be happy or what happened that made you get upset to help you on your journey to getting freed from the ways that you don't want to live. I call it spiritual bondage. And I'm very excited about talking with you this week. We're going to talk about breaking down walls. Last week, we talked about restoring what we've lost, our dreams, parts of us that we've just let die because of so much adversity and pain in our life. And each time we've went through this pain in our life, we've literally put walls around our heart. We call, some people call it a mask. I used to say, put a mask on. You could go to work and look like everything's going well for you. And then as soon as you walk out the door, you start crying and you're like so empty inside. Excuse me. So I was thinking that we'll talk about walls and the process of how to go about it. And I picked two scriptures this week to talk about walls. One of them is the walls of Jericho. I'm sure if you're familiar with the Bible and stories in the Old Testament, you all heard about Joshua and the walls that fell down. And there's also a different kind of a wall that Jesus took a special trip to Samaria to talk to a woman at a well. And it was a different wall. It wasn't a literal wall like Jericho was, but it was walls around her that it's just the impact is just as painful and hard to get past, if not harder, than a physical wall. So that's pretty much where we're going to go with this lesson today, or whatever you want to call this. So when we hear about the walls of Jericho, it was that the Israelites, and just to give you a backstory a little bit, the Israelites were in bondage and slaves in Egypt for many, many years. God called Moses to take the people out of Egypt, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, and Moses was their leader, and God spoke to Moses, and that's how they knew what to do. But at the end of Moses's career, or whatever he was doing, he was 120. He was 80 when he started to get the people out of Egypt, and he was 120 when it was over because it was 40 years. And I think it's kind of funny because I always tease about how old I am. I thought, well, Lord, you waited till I was pretty old to get out to talk to people. I'm 73. So I think it's kind of funny. But anyway, Jericho, when Moses died, God gave the reins over to Joshua. And I'm sure Joshua was very intimidated trying to take over the place of Moses. And he tried to give him encouragement, which he did. But in Joshua 1:2, chapter 1, the second verse, God was talking to Joshua. He goes, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now arise, go over this Jordan, which was a Jordan River. It wasn't a Red Sea experience like Moses had, the people, but they had to go through the Jordan River, and it was a raging river. And he was thinking, how are we going to get across? They were carrying things. And remember, we're talking 2 million people here, not just a few. And they had to go on dry land to get to the other side of the Jordan River. And he goes, you and all these people to the land which I am giving to them, the children of Israel. He made very specific that he was giving the land to his people, the Israelites. And notice here the word given, because this is a very important word in that sentence. So a lot of times we just read, I'm going to give them the land. But God had already promised them the promised land. So when they left Egypt, they had nothing. They didn't have anything. They were slaves. So in God, they did take some things out of there, but they didn't have tools. They didn't have weapons to fight battles or anything. So when they finally crossed the Jordan River, they were into the promised land. And as they were walking through the promised land to get to Canaan, which was where they were on their way to, they hit against a city called Jericho, and they had to go through that city to get to Canaan. Well, Josh, oh my goodness, Terry. Jericho was a walled city, and it was huge. I don't know what the dimensions of it were, but there was a big wall covering the city so that nobody could get in and no one can get out without going through the gates. And they say, through historical reading that I've read, the walls of Jericho were 15 feet wide. So that's pretty wide. And I guess chariots and horses would actually walk along the top of it, making an looking out to see if there was any enemies coming or who was coming and who, so they would be ready for the war. If they were had to battle, if the enemy was coming, they were able to ward off because it was a fortified, protected city. Well, here's the Israelites, 2 million of them, trying to get through this wall, through this to get to the city, and they had no way of fighting their way to it. So God, this is where the story picks up. It was an obstacle. It was actually an obstacle for those people to get across, to get to where they needed to go. So God told them, he told Joshua, I want you to get the men and walk around the city, the wall of the city, every day for 7 days. And on the 7th day, I want you to blow the trumpets. So Joshua is trying to tell these men, after they've been going through the journey to get to where they're going in the promised land, after walking in the wilderness for 40 years, I'm sure they were tired. I'm sure they didn't want any more games, and to walk around a wall when they had no protection, no way to fight themselves, sounded a little ridiculous to them. So I'm sure there was a lot of grumbling going on at the time. And that's why God also told Joshua, I don't want anybody talking as they're walking through the walls. That as they're walking around the city, do not have them talk. Which is kind of a weird thing to hear somebody, that God to say to that. But in retrospect, when you think about how we are as people, you get 2 or 3 of us together and we think something's not too smart of an idea. We start talking about it, and then we start thinking, you know what, I don't think I want to do this. This is ridiculous. So the more you talk about stuff, the more you get other people thinking, oh, and then you get rebellious and you don't want to do what you planned to do at the beginning. And that's pretty much why God, I believe, told the people not to talk. He did not want anybody talking to go against what he was telling them to do. And then on the 7th day, when they did it, after 7 days of walking, can you imagine what the people in Jericho were saying and thinking of these people? They would look at them walking around. What are they going to do? Well, on the 7th day, they all stopped. They were around they had encompassed the whole city walls, and they did a big shout, and they blew their trumpets. And those walls just fell like it was an earthquake. And that was how they were able to get through it. And then they were able to get things that they needed, the clothing and tools. They got the weapons they needed. So God supplied them. But God had already told them he was giving them the land. So why did they have to do anything and work and fight their way through to get it? Because that's how we do things. Just like right now, we want to change. We want to make ourselves better. We have to do our side. God will do his side. God gives us everything we need to accomplish what we're trying to do. But there's things that we need to do that God can't do for us. God can give you anything, but if you're not willing to take the steps forward to get to the spot to get to, and then have the adversity come, yeah, you're going to have to fight through some things. And you see that in the Bible. God never promises us that he's just going to give it to us. It's not like we're going to walk into a rose garden and everything's going to be beautiful and perfect all the time. No. And that's where the big fallacy with people that are non-believers, they think that Christians are perfect and that they don't have any problem. That is so far from the truth. Christians are no different if you believe in God or you don't believe in God than the person that does or doesn't. We're all going to get hurt. We're all going to have problems. It's just really nice that if you do believe in God and have Christ in your life, he's with you to go through those things. So you're not doing the battle by yourself. God gives you the resources, the principles, and the way to do it. By reading the Bible, you read the strategies. It's like football, like I said in the first study. You have to study the enemy. You have to study the people that you're trying to overcome. If you don't, then you're never going to win. You can't go blindly into a battle. That's why we have service. In the service, we have colonels, we have generals, we have private first classes, we have just the normal infantry. Each person has their rules and what they need to do and their duties. And it's always the higher up that's doing the strategy, trying to figure out what to do. You always need somebody. God wanted to be their ruler all the time. And at this point in time, they pretty much did have God. But there come a time later on that the Jews wanted to have a king because everybody else had a king. They didn't want God telling them what to do. Oh my goodness. I would love if I could have a direct line to God tell me, should I do this? Should I not do it? The things I wouldn't have had to go through in my life. But no, everybody has something they want. We always want something that we don't have. And God had a perfect plan for us, just like He has a perfect plan for you. Hurt and pain along the way, yes. But a lot of times that pain and hurt on our way is because we were stubborn. And if we really sit back and think about it, we made a lot of wrong choices. And had we went with our instincts at the beginning to do it and not buck the system because someone told us to do it because we were angry or we didn't want to be told what to do, we caused a lot of our own problems. And that's a hard thing to face. But it's something that we need to face because that's when God can come in. When you come to the point in your life, you realize, I can't do this. I can't make the right decisions all the time. I don't know what to do. Just like when the Israelites were coming through the Red Sea with Moses, God parted the Red Sea. But it was either go through the Red Sea or have the Egyptians that were coming back behind him to kill him. What was their choice? They were between a rock and a hard place. Actually, it was a river, or the Red Sea, but they had to make a choice. And they chose to go through the Red Sea. Was that the easiest road to go through? Probably not, but they didn't. It was much easier than to have the Egyptians coming up to kill them. So they took the path of least resistance, and it was the path God opened up for them. And that's what we need to come to the point in our life to realize, I can't do this on my own. I make too many mistakes. I don't have all the answers. God does have all the answers, and God knows the beginning of your life, and He knows the end of your life. What a surprise to us in whatever we're going through right now, it's not a surprise to God. He knew every choice you were going to make. Is He happy with all of our choices? No. But He allows us to make our choices so that we can come to the realization that, I can't do this, and there's got to be something more than me to be able to help me get through this. And only a divine intervention of God can that happen with. So anyway, that's why I got a little off course here. I have my notes here, and I still got off course. And that is how the enemy comes in and gets us. When we come to a Jordan River or a Red Sea, we either fight our way to go through what we think we need to do, and we don't think. We just go in fight, and we're going to do whatever we're going to do to get to what we know we have to do. Or else we have to come to the point while I was talking that we realize, you know what? I don't know what to do here. So instead of going forward, because that's what we naturally want to do, it doesn't matter, we're going to do what we're going to do. We stop for a minute and just step back a minute and say, Lord, I don't know what to do here. Can you help me? We don't ever have to rush and make a decision in certain things like that. That is what the enemy loves. He wants you to feel that you have to make a quick decision and do it now. Where God says, wait on the Lord and let Him be God. He will help you. I mean, you can't wait. If someone's got a knife coming at you, you can't say, wait, oh, look. I'm not talking about those situations. I'm talking about in general in life. We usually have time to make a calculated idea or make a plan of how we can get through what we're going through, and we have to take that time. And if you would stop and say, Lord, help me in this. I don't exactly know what to do right here, and I don't want to make any more mistakes. God will be more than happy to help you. And how He helps you is by listening to things like this, not necessarily to me, to anybody, somebody that's been through something that that can have some information to help you. It may not be exactly what is good for you, but it gives your mind an openness to think, you know what, I've never thought about that. And maybe there is some virility to this, and you talk to enough people, but the biggest one is read the Bible. Here you are, you can read the Bible, what Joshua had to go through. We've all been at a wall of Jericho. We've all been at a Red Sea. And what did we do? What was the outcome? We got to look back on our life, our history, and say, boy, I made some pretty bad mistakes. I wish I would have done this and this and that. That's what we're trying to do here. Where do you make your biggest errors? Where do you make your snap decisions to do something and it didn't turn out? You have a history. So you have to look back at your history and see what could you have done different? How do you want to approach life different? And that's where we are today, trying to build a lifestyle for us that we don't live like we did in the past. And that is how we can do it. And that's how Satan will come in. When you get to a roadblock, he loves it because he diverts your attention to the goal of where you want to go, and he stops you in your track, and then fear will come in. You start operating the way that you normally operate because you're more familiar with the past and what you're uncomfortable with. At least you're comfortable in what you know instead of stepping forward and doing something new that you are totally unaware of what's going to happen when you cross over that water. And that's the goal. That's the battle. Do we get pushed back or do we go forward? And if you want to change your life, you have to find it within you. With God you can do it. Move forward, because it's not as scary. In fact, when you're somewhere in between, when you're going somewhere and you've went halfway to where you want to go and you've got the other half to go, it takes just as much time to go backwards as it does to go forward. And if you're going backwards, what are you going to go to? You're going to go right back to the same pattern of life and the same hurts and pains that you're familiar with. If you go forward, is it scary? You bet, because you don't know what's out there. But I guarantee you, if you can go straight forward and you've got God with you, you're going to be off to a 10 times better place. I'm not going to say it's going to be the easiest path because it's all new. You go back because it's more familiar. You're familiar, just like people that stay in a very abusive relationships. And trust me, I know what we're going to do. We go back because it's better to be in an abusive relationship than it is to get out of that abusive relationship and go forward not knowing what's going to happen. Because in the abusive relationship, 9 times out of 10, we've lost our self-confidence. We've lost a lot of things in our life, and we actually believe the lie of Satan that we deserve it. And that is the lie of Satan, because you don't deserve it. Nobody does. There's nothing you do that a person could be so abusive to you and say it's your fault. It's their anger and it's their issue, and they take it out on somebody else. And that is where the warfare really hits. And it's a scary place to be. And I know that it is. I've been in that situation once. Not in a constant abuse, but someone did try to take my life. And it was very difficult. But anyway, there's 3 people that know you. And when you're in a battle and you're trying to get out from underneath it and be freed, you've got to realize this. You know yourself more than anybody. God knows you intimately. He knows everything about you. Even if you don't believe him, he knows everything about you. He knows your pain. He knows the decisions you're going to make. He knows everything. And Satan. He's the third one that knows you. He doesn't know you like God because God is infinite. But Satan can watch you. He has watched you all your life on where your weaknesses are, what's your trigger points. He has put barriers in front of you that you didn't go through. Pardon me, you have pain. He knows all of that. He can only see what you do. He doesn't know your thoughts. He doesn't know anything other than what you verbally say and how you react to things because he's watched you. God knows everything. You can pray to God in your mind and God knows it. Satan only knows what you say and how you react. And you know yourself all the time. And sometimes we don't like ourselves because we don't like the way we do. We don't like the way we talk. We don't like the way we treat people sometimes. There's a lot of things we are against our own self. And Satan, that's what he wants. And he wins every time that you say, I'm a loser, or I don't deserve this, or I did this, and then I feel regretful. All those things are part of life. And we all have spots in our life that we're ashamed of. We all have done something that we're very happy and proud about. And sometimes we didn't get the accolades for what we did do. And then we get angry about that. I mean, it's just a constant flow of stuff. And you have to realize where they're coming from, and you can learn it so much easier if you write it down. I'm not saying make journals of it, but just a little quick thing like you go to the grocery store and someone cuts in front of you in the line, and you just go off. I mean, you're just saying, and then you sit back when that happens, write it down. Like, what really was going on? It really wasn't because someone got in front of me, but you vented all your hostility and anger towards the person that did, just like driving in the car. Someone cuts you off, then you want to cut them off. What does it prove? What really gets accomplished in there? Nothing. Usually you get mad, people look at you, then you have another thing you got to feel like, well, look at you, what did you do? Do you think God really proud of you for doing that? I mean, it's just constant. It's a constant flow of income, of things coming to us negatively, like ants, ANTS, automatic negative thinking syndrome. That's what it is. We just automatically fall back to whatever, and we've got to change that and start looking at the good thing. Like someone gets in front of you in the cart in front of you. Instead of going off and getting mad, yeah, you might get frustrated, bite your tongue, step back a minute, and then start thinking, well, I got a few more minutes to say, think about what I'm going to have for dinner, or think of something positive that you can do with the time instead of being angry and just flustering and just wasting energy in your anger. I heard years ago that 5 minutes of unbridled anger is enough to take all of your energy resource that you have in a day. That to me was an amazing statement that I heard one time. And I know that because I used to go off every hour. I used to call myself Old Faithful. And at the end of the day, I was exhausted. And month after month and year after year living like that, you're just worn out and you're frazzled. You're just like a frayed string of a rope. You're just everywhere because you can't focus and get calm. We need to get into a space where we can get calm. When something hits us and we want to get angry and go after somebody, we've got to find some way to work our way into, I'm not saying deny the fact that you get upset, and rightfully sometimes you should be upset, but we don't have to yell and scream and make a scene about stuff. There's ways to get your point across calmly and not making a spectacle and not walking away where people look at you and go, look at that crazy person. You didn't get even through to them. All they look at you is like you're crazy, and then you're angry at yourself that you did it. So it's just that circle like a mouse on the wheel. We need to get off the wheel somehow. And I'm hoping that some of these things I'm saying is just at least giving you a little spark of a way to think about stuff. But anyway, I'm off track again. So here's the three people, God, Satan, and you. And we have become great wall builders. If we were a contractor, boy, we could build bridges. Because every time somebody does something to us or something in life happens to us, we build that wall a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. And as we build it over the years, like me, I was, 50 years old before I stopped putting the bricks on. And I still probably do, but I'm tearing them down more than I'm building them up. Because we put a wall around our heart. That's what we're saving. We're trying to hit where we don't want to be hurt anymore. And that's valid. No one wants to be hurt. We have enough pain and sorrow in our life. We don't want to keep adding to it. But over the years we do, because we don't know how to change the pattern of getting hurt. We go to the same type of people. We're drawn to the same type of situations because that's what we're familiar with. So what we do in essence, we're putting up walls, but what we're really doing is we're building ourselves into solitary confinement. Because as we're building our walls, we stop. I had to write notes on this. We stop being. We become empty inside. Have it lit here. We get unhappy. We're very alone. So not only now are we having these walls and we're isolating ourselves, we have all these other things going on, and we're not even really enjoying the few people that we could have a relationship with or friendship because we're so guarded. It's like, hi, how are you doing? But do you really want to know how I'm doing? No. Do you want to really hear how they're doing? No. We say, oh, how are you doing? And then you walk off. Try it sometime. When someone says, how are you doing? Sit down and say, I really like. They won't listen. And in our society, we are in a part of life now that people, no matter what we encounter emotionally, physically, or anything else, we watch TV shows, everything's done in an hour, everything's perfect, and go on with your life. That's not the real world. When you've been hurt and you lose things, sometimes the grieving process will last you almost a year. And then after the grieving process, you get angry. It takes a long time to actually heal from things that have happened to us. And you look at your life over the course, if you're 20 years old, you got 20 years of pain. 30, you've got 30. 40, like me, I was 50. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to have to shuffle through and try to dig through and figure out what is going on. I'm tired of living like this, like I did with my dad. Finally, I said, I can't do this anymore. You're not going to hurt me anymore. And then you got to figure out, well, how can I get away from that? And you learn it. Hopefully, this is helping you at some level. That is my biggest prayer. That's why I'm doing this, is to help people not have to live the way I lived for so many, and still live, but nothing like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. No, 1 being the best. I would say I'm probably at a 3 from where I was, and I'm happy with that. If I stay here, that's okay. I would like to get to 1, but I don't know if that's really attainable. But that's another thing. Don't set goals that are unrealistic, because you'll never make it. You can't say, oh, by June 21st, I'm going to be the perfect person. No, you're not going to be the perfect person. Why don't you say by June 21st, I am not going to be so upset if somebody pulls out in front of me. Make small goals and celebrate every time that you've done something good. Celebrate it. Say, boy, you did a really good job today. You didn't get mad. And talk to yourself. Encourage yourself and say, Lord, thank you for letting me be able to just hold my tongue for a few minutes. Because each time you conquer something, it's going to give you so much more confidence in yourself, because you're going to say, boy, I did it this time. Maybe the next time I can even do more. And little by little, slow and steady, you will start achieving so much. And then one day, like myself, one day I realized I'm not the same person. It was like an epiphany. I couldn't believe there was things about me that things were happening, and I just didn't respond to them anymore. I thought it was like water on my back. Like when I was younger, if I had a bad haircut, oh, that would put me on 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'd be mad about my haircut. If I broke a nail, oh, that was another bad. Now, a bad haircut at 70 years old, I thought it'll grow back. It's not a big deal. If I get a broken nail, who cares? Who's going to really look at it? We are so focused on what other people see and think. Half the time they don't even know. They're so wrapped up in themselves and what they're doing, they don't even realize that you have a broken nail. They could care less really about your broken nail, but you've made something important out of something that's absolutely nothing. And that's what happens as you start making yourself get freed from the bondages that you live in. It's like you don't realize the bondage you're in until it starts to dissipate. It just starts little by little going away, and then you start feeling, oh, I got more energy. I don't feel so heavy, and you're happier. Maybe your happiness will only be for 30 minutes a day, but you used to not have any. Celebrate and see your advancement. That's why it's so important to, I know I keep saying that, to write down things. Like when you have a good day, say, boy, today was really a good day. And then think about what didn't go well and how much better you're handling it. And those are great achievements, and praise God for them. I would love to know if anybody's got anything going on that this is helping at all. It would make me very happy. So anyway, we accept ourselves as living life when we're really not living life. We're empty, we're alone, and there's a lot of things going on. And you live in fear of being hurt again. So that just right there just puts the biggest wall of anybody trying to get up and try to make yourself have a better life, because you don't even want to get involved with people because you don't want to get hurt again. And that is where Satan won the battle. And I know that I've been through many a times that I was very, very like that. I wouldn't let anybody in. And then finally I got to the point in my life, I thought, you know what? You're not going to win, Satan. I'm 50 years old. I went through this much in my life. I am not going to let you win this battle. And when I did say that, the breakthrough for me to taking down the walls that I had built around myself was I had to learn and work at it. This is where the rubber is going to meet the road right now. I had to learn to be more open, honest, and vulnerable. And I know that's a lot to take in when you've been hurt and you're so damaged. But I'll tell you, openness is the way to keep freedom. Being honest not only with yourself, but when you start to get into relationships with people, and I don't mean divulge it right off the top of the bat, no. But be honest with how you've come to be the way you are. because everybody's going to know that you have guards up. We all have guards up. Some people know more than others. I have a very discerning spirit because I've been very hurt. I've went through this process, so it's very easy for me to pick up on somebody else that has been where I've been. And I'm sure you understand that yourself. Just like if you've been an addicted person to alcohol or drugs or porn or whatever it is, and you get out of it to some degree, or you get out of it, you're very easily seen. You can see it very easily in other people because there's ways that people act and things they say that you just know. And you can come along those people and help them. You know, even if you're only doing baby steps, your baby steps, talking to other people and trying to show them helps you grow. You know, I know when I was going through, before I knew all this that I'm talking, I was working I'm volunteering at a homeless shelter in Orange, in California, a homeless shelter for women. It was 12 family unit, a beautiful place in Orange. You would never know it was a homeless shelter, but it was a 2-year program. And I was going through some emotional, a lot of stuff. Oh boy, I was going through divorce again, and oh my goodness, with the Lord. But it's when I was opened up to this spiritual warfare, and when I was learning about it, I was teaching about it, and it helped me grow, and it helped heal me. And it sounds so counterintuitive, but it works. When you're going through bad things and you're helping other people, it helps you heal. And you're using your testimony because you're open and you're talking to other people about your hurt. And it's like Satan makes it be such a bad thing to talk about your hurt. And you don't want it's more pride than anything. You don't want anybody to know that you were hurt. You don't want anybody to let you know that, oh boy, I was pretty ridiculously dumb in this relationship. But you have to be honest. And when honesty comes, oh my goodness, there's freedom. I read a book a long time ago, The Bondage Breaker, like I told you. Satan can only live off the garbage that you keep internally. If you keep every single thing that's happened to you, it's garbage that you're carrying around. It's baggage that you're carrying around. And if you never reveal it with your words, it just sits there and it eats away at you. It's poison. But as soon as you open up a little bit and you talk to somebody and you get it out, just even a little piece of it, it's like, oh, you feel so relieved. And it's something that we need to do. Be honest. And then the hard part is vulnerable. Being vulnerable, I looked it up in the dictionary, Webster's dictionary. It's being susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. And that is the very thing that we are running so far away from. We do not want to be anywhere near getting hurt again. So, and the part of the healing process is you have to be vulnerable. You have to open up to somebody that you feel safe with and talk. And you find out that there are people there that do want to help you. Not everybody in this world is out to hurt you. Granted, 80% of them probably are, but there is the few 20% that won't. And you'd be surprised once you start opening up how open other people will be. And it just opens up a whole new avenue of life. And I know I've done it. I'm doing this. This is being very vulnerable. I don't know who's listening. I don't know anything of what's going on here. Someone might be listening to this that knew me when I was 20 years old. I'm 73. I'm not even the same person. But I don't know. But I'm willing to help other people learn that they don't have to go through those 50 years of life like I did. I'm getting off track here. But if we hold on to our hurt and betrayals, we can't be freed. You have to be able to be hurt again to move on and get back to freedom. And in John, Jesus himself, in John 8:31 through 32, and again, these verses will be on the end of the tape or the video. John 18:31 through 32. Then Jesus said to the Jews who believed in him. Now notice here, believed in him. You have to believe in Jesus Christ for these things to actually give you the power to do the things you need to do. If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The Bible is full of God's truth. And if you read the Bible and you understand it and you see the freedom that Jesus has for your life, oh my goodness. The lie of the enemy is that the Bible is full of thou shalt not do this and thou shalt not do. The Bible is the most freeing, life-changing book. If you just pick it up as a book, take away anything of faith and religion, you would live a great life if you just would follow the principles that are in the Bible. And Jesus is telling people, if you follow me and you're my disciple, if you've asked God into your heart and told him that you accept him as the Savior, that you've sinned, forgive me of my sins, and let me be a follower of yours, Lord, you are opening yourself up to a world of success. I can sit here for 6 days with verses, just verse after verse of the successes you can do if you apply God's word to it. Satan and make everybody think, oh, the Bible, don't read that book, it's not going to help anybody. There isn't a person alive, I would guarantee you, that's listening to my voice, that you could not read the Bible and find a story of yourself in it. You will find a life of somebody that you're going through. And it's amazing what's in the Bible. There's incest in the Bible, prostitution in the Bible. Oh my goodness. Family against family. Oh my goodness. The kings taking advantage of the people. It's so relevant to today. But people don't even want to read it. I mean, and it's where freedom is. I mean, it's the oldest book in the world. People have burned it. People have tried to ban it. And here it is, still there. And it is life-changing. They'll even tell you, the Bible is the living word of God. And the reason they call it the living word of God is because it is. It lived in me and it changed my life. It's a living word. And no matter how old you are, I've been reading it for over 50 years. I learn things every day. Every time I pick up the Bible, you learn something new because it's like an onion. There's layers and layers. When you first become a Christian, you're going to understand the basic preliminary things of the Bible. But when you've walked through valleys and darkness and things, you become wiser and wiser. And the Bible has layers and layers of helping you become better and more healed than you were when you first started. It's just like anything. When you start anything, cooking, for example, you know how to put a piece of toast in the toaster. And then you can maybe put a piece of garlic bread in the oven. Little by little, you start learning how you put onions and garlic, and you can do this. As you develop, you become a chef. The same thing with the Bible. The more you read, the more wise you become. And the wisdom that you have, you can start applying to your life and you can start helping other people. It's a wonderful thing. Anyway, but Jesus said he would come and set you free. And the other illustration I want to use, and I'm going to have to go through this kind of fast because I know time. I don't want to be too long with you. There's a book in the story. It's a Samaritan woman. It's called The Woman at the Well. And she was a woman that would go to the well, get water, because back in those days, women got the water. They would go to the well, and sometimes it'd be a mile, 2 miles away from where they lived. But she would go in the heat of the day to go get her water because she felt so much shame, and people ridiculed her, and people talked about her because she was a woman that had passed. And one day she went to the well, and when she got to the well, Jesus was sitting on the well. And she was a Samaritan woman, which the Jews hated the Samaritans. And in that day, in Jesus's day, Jews didn't talk to Samaritans, let alone a woman, because they just didn't do it. I mean, that was a law. You just didn't do it. So she went there, and he was waiting for her. And it's in John, the book of John, fourth gospel, the book of John. It's the entire chapter 1 through 26. There's 26 verses in it. It's a very good story. I think everybody should read it. But in purposes of today for time, I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of it. But she came up to the well to draw her water, and Jesus asked her for a drink of water. And she was a Samaritan, and he was a Jew. She was surprised that he even talked to her. So she said, "How can I give you water? You don't even have anything to draw the water with." And he told her, he goes, "If you knew who I was, you would be asking me for living water." And I'm not going to go into, but she said living water. She was thinking, oh, I mean, then I have to come and get water. But that wasn't what he was talking about. But if you read the story, you'd learn more about it. And Jesus said to her, go back and get your husband. When he said about the living water, he says, go back and get your husband. Well, at that point in time, she could have just, like, I know I would have done. I relate to this woman very much. But if somebody would have told me to go back and get my husband, like you all know, I've been married quite a few times, I would have probably walked away. But she stood there and she says, I don't have a husband. And he said, what you say is true. He goes, you've had 5. And the man you're living with right now is not your husband. She was flabbergasted that here was a Jewish man talking to her, and he knew her life. Like he was like a, fortune teller. She was just amazed. I mean, here's the woman that she was shunned through everybody. All the women in the town talked about her. The men talked about her because she was just a nobody, an absolute nobody. Just like in our society, when people say, oh, I know a woman that's been married 5 times, as myself, they go, oh my God, she's a loser. Who would even want to be around her? And that's shame. And those are the things I had to deal with for years. But Jesus was sitting there and he waited for her because he knew how damaged she was and she needed to be freed. So she says, well, I know there's the Messiah. She goes, where's somebody that's supposed to be coming? And and he says, and he looked at her and he said, I am who you are speaking to. So he revealed to her. She was the first person that Jesus ever revealed his deity to, that he was the Messiah. She dropped her pot. She ran back to the city, and she was telling the men, everybody, I met a man, and they probably said, oh, I bet you did, that told me everything I've ever done in my entire life. She goes, and so they went. I'm getting it way to my head stuff. I know the story so well, and the people in the town, they listened to her because they knew who she was and that she never spoke to anybody. So the men of the town went out to the well and they met Jesus and they believed. They knew that he was, and they were Samaritans. So the Jews now, Jesus didn't come just to save the Jews like in the Old Testament. It was for the Jewish people only. Now it was for the Gentiles. And that is where that story started. That's where Jesus opened his ministry, when he started talking to this woman at the well with such a past, and in society was such a loser. That's what I'm trying to show you here. You're not a loser. You might have went through a lot of things in life. You have a great story. You have a great testimony to help other people dig out of where they're at in their thought life because of Satan's bondage, to keep them in their past and to think that they are a loser. But you're not. When you come to Christ and you give him your life, you become a new creature. A new beginning starts for you. Does that mean that your past is wiped out? No. But God in Romans 8:28, and this is not written on my verses because I didn't have it, but Romans 8:28 says that God will use all things together for good to those who are called according to his purpose. And if you've accepted Jesus Christ, I don't care if you did it right now, today, ask him to come into your heart and accepted him for what he did for you and that he died on the cross and was resurrected on the 3rd day. You have a new beginning. And all the power that you need to have to overcome anything, addictions, pain, loss, God can help you restore your life back. It takes time. But what a wonderful road to be on for a journey to heal instead of keep adding adversity to your life and more pain. And on that, I am going to stop this lesson right now today. I don't even know what to call this. I'm going to call it a lesson or a video. And I know there's a lot of information I've given to you today. Hopefully it didn't turn you off. I hope that it has piqued your interest to listen more. And next week we will attack another area of life, breaking down walls this week. Next week we'll figure out something else to talk about. The Lord, I pray all the time for something. And I am so excited to be doing this. And I'm hoping that you see the light at the end of a tunnel for yourself, and that you know that there's such goodness that's ahead of you, and that you're on the right path. It's not to say it's going to be easy path and that no more pain's going to come, but oh my goodness, you're on a path of recovery. God bless, and we'll see each other next week, hopefully.